to start getting our arms involved in our little walk cycle. At the conclusion of our previous stage of this animation, this is the result that we should have gotten, or something that looks very similar to this. We animated the head, the body, the legs, and it's time to get our arms involved in the totality of this movement. The arms create a wonderful sense of character and finishes the illusion that we're starting to craft. So let's jump in and start adding the arms to our little walk cycle. I'm going to stop the animation over here in Blender and activate the arms layer itself. It's a really good idea and a fantastic practice to start dividing all of these appendages into their own animation layers. It just makes it easier to control and easier to consume and understand all of these keyframes. With all the keyframes on their own row, if you will, inside of our dope sheet, we can adjust the timing independently from the legs and not have to worry about messing up the drawings or the work that we've already completed. We have a little bit of a challenge though at the moment. I've started to flush out the drawings for my arms, the armature for my arms, and I have a really great indication of a shoulder. I would really encourage, for the arms in particular, that you have at the very least some sort of guideline, a circle or a mark in your drawings that defines the center point of the circle itself, or at the very least the center point of the rotation. We're going to be moving, and almost the entire motor for this animation is going to be coming from this one point. So having that defined pretty early on at the very beginning is really setting your animation up for success. I have the shoulder, I have the elbow, a wrist, and then a small little illustration for my hand itself. Now, at the moment, we have a little bit of a challenge when it comes to rounding out the crazy illusion that we're making in the drawings themselves. If I activate and deactivate the arm layer, you can see that I have both the front arm, the white one, and the back arm, the gray one, saved on its own layer. And while that might seem like an okay idea, watch what happens when I go in. I'm in edit mode, by the way, and I start to select all the parts and pieces for the back arm. Now, I want them to be behind the body, and at the moment, if I was to arrange them to send them to the back, like we did with the legs, it doesn't work. It doesn't pop behind the back. Now, why is that? Well, if you look at the way the animation layers are constructed, previously we just had the animation layer for the body, and we were able to arrange all these different stroke shapes within the layers, if you will, or within all the details of that specific animation layer. So I was able to push and pull and send things to the front and the back within just that animation layer. Now that I'm working with a second animation layer, there's no understanding as far as the computer goes as to the location of all of the body parts in relationship to the arm parts. So we need to make some adjustments here, and this kind of is some animation layer management. So let's go ahead and do it real fast. I have an animation layer here called arms, and I've already brought up my animation layers in my properties panel, and I'm going to rename this. I'm going to call this one front arm. And as one might imagine, we're going to have a back arm as well. Before we go any further, let's duplicate this. And it's really easy to duplicate this animation layer from the pull-down menu right here. We can duplicate, and we can also duplicate it without any of the keyframes. Well, we already have a keyframe, and that's just fine. So we're going to duplicate it. And as one might imagine, this now is going to be the back arm. I'll need to go in and delete all the strokes for the appropriate arm. Let's just do it real fast. I want to turn off the visibility of the front arm and lock it just to make sure I don't accidentally select any of those shapes. And I'm just going to very quickly go in and select all the front arm parts, hit the X key, and dissolve them. All right, so now I have the back arm isolated on its own layer. Let's do the same thing for the front arm. There we go. I'm going to grab all of the parts for the back arm, delete those, and now I'm starting to construct my scene here. I got the back arm on its own animation layer and the front arm on its own animation layer. Now, the way that we reorganize this to get the illusion that we're after is really the job that's done over here in the animation layers palette, because we can move these layers up and down in the stack here, and that's going to determine how the scene is going to draw all these images. So I want the back arm animation layer, and let's unlock it so I can make a change. I want it to be below the body, so it gets pushed behind those shapes inside the scene, and we can simply do that with these two arrows on the far right-hand side of the animation layers. And it's just going to reorder this entire stack, and there we go. Wonderful. We have the front arm which is going to exist in front of the body layer, and then pushing the back arm animation layer to below the body layer in the animation stack is rounding out the illusion. So we have to animate, or we have to manage all of our animation layers here inside of Blender to really kind of finalize the illusion. And luckily, it's really simple using these up and down arrows inside of our animation layer properties.